Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to This Explainer. So today we're tackling what is, honestly, probably the single highest leverage skill you can have in the modern professional world. It totally doesn't matter if you're an engineer, a consultant, a product manager, or a high-level executive. The skill is this: defining the exact right problem to solve before you build absolutely anything. I mean, it sounds super simple, right? But the reality? Skipping this step is literally the root cause of countless failed projects and totally wasted budgets. So today, we're mastering the discovery discipline.
To get it started, I want you to imagine, for a second, walking into a doctor's office. Before you can even sit down and explain your symptoms, the doctor just looks at you and prescribes major surgery. No way, right? You'd run out of the room. It's completely absurd. And yet, this exact thing happens in business every single day. We have the order taker who hears a request, nods politely, and immediately builds exactly what was asked for, only for the whole thing to fail because it never actually addressed the root issue. Then we have the problem solver. The problem solver actually stops, asks why, listens carefully to the symptoms, and then builds what's actually needed. Today, we're figuring out how to be that problem solver.
To do that, we're taking a structured three-layered journey today. First, the big picture. That's the diagnosis. Second, the framework, our toolkit. And third, the bigger idea, the overarching strategy.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the big picture, or the diagnosis.
If you're relatively new to client management or project scoping, the absolute most important thing to internalize is this: starting a meeting by pitching a solution is just the wrong order of operations. Your job in a discovery meeting isn't to present, it's to listen. Let me give you a very real and honestly very relatable example. Imagine an executive walks into a room practically slamming their fists on the table and says, "We need an AI chatbot built in 6 weeks." They're totally stressed because customer support tickets have suddenly spiked right before a massive seasonal holiday rush. Now, an order taker says, "Sure thing, let me show you the architecture for a generative AI pipeline." But a problem solver, they start investigating. They map out the workflow, and you know what they find? The spike in support tickets isn't because customers need a fancy chatbot. No, it's because a recent change by a shipping supplier actually just broke the package tracking link on the website. Customers are literally just calling to ask, "Where's my order?" If you go off and build a multi-million-dollar chatbot to fix a broken web link, you've completely fallen into the trap of the premature solution.
And, well, that leads us to a pretty painful truth. You can spend weeks, months even coding, designing, and perfecting a system. But when you finally hand it over and the client goes, this isn't quite what we meant, you realize something terrible. The solution was right, but the problem was wrong. Arriving at a meeting just to show off a brilliant technical diagram without ever diagnosing the actual pain, that is a one-way ticket to wasted time and resources.
So, how do we fix this? Let's move to Section 2, the framework, our toolkit. This is where we get into the actionable methodology used by top-tier professionals to navigate tricky stakeholder dynamics. Like, how do we actually uncover that hidden broken link instead of just blindly building the chatbot? Well, before you ask a single question, you need to know where to look. You've got to map the problem space across 3 dimensions: people, process, and systems. First up, the people. Who's the champion fighting for this? Who's the blocker, worried about security or the budget? And, absolutely crucial, who is the end user actually doing the daily work? Second, the process. What's the trigger here? What are the specific tasks and the handoffs? And third, the systems. What tools and databases are involved? Look, if you only analyze the IT system and completely ignore the human blockers or the daily workflow, you're going to face massive deployment surprises down the line. You have to map all 3.
Okay, so once you know where to look, how do you actually talk to these people? You use the SPIN framework. Now here's a little secret. This isn't just some slick sales tactic. It's actually a highly engineered, structured listening protocol designed to help clients articulate a problem they've probably never fully said out loud before. Your questions, those are just the tools. But the productive silence after you ask them, man, that is where the real answers live.
Let's break down exactly how this progression works, row by row. First, S is for situation. You build context by asking something like, "So, how do you currently handle incoming tickets?" Next, P surfaces the problem. What happens when that tracking link fails? You're helping them put a name to the pain. Then, I is for implication. This makes the pain urgent. You ask, what is the downstream cost to customer satisfaction? And finally, N stands for Need-Payoff. You let them articulate the value. If we could automatically fix those tracking errors before the customer even notices, what would that change? And here's the beauty of it. When they say it, they own it. They are literally building the business case for you. So the really crucial part here is how you structure the actual discovery meeting around this framework. Before you even walk in, you've got to prepare 5 to 7 spin questions. Treat it like a general direction, not a rigid script. During the meeting, you run through the questions, moving from situation to problem early on. And when you ask an implication question, you pause. Just let them sit in that silence. Trust me, it's not awkward, it's productive. Take your notes using their exact words, not your own technical jargon. And after the meeting, okay, this is the magic step right here. Within 24 hours, you send a 1-page discovery summary. Here's what we heard, what it implies, and what we're thinking about next. This written summary is insanely high leverage. It proves you are actually listening, gives them the language for their own pain, and creates a formal record. Never, ever start building without a confirmed problem statement from this process.
And that brings us perfectly to Section 3, the bigger idea, or the strategy.
For the advanced professionals watching, I want to challenge you to look at the invisible forces at play here and completely shift your mindset about where your real value actually lies. There's this fantastic insight from the discipline of problem solving that states most people solve the wrong problem brilliantly. I mean, really think about that. If you're just writing code or just building exactly what the client asked for on day one, you're basically operating as a commodity. Anyone can build a chatbot. Your true, absolutely irreplaceable value lies in the rigorous discipline of problem definition.
All of your mapping, all of those carefully crafted spin questions, all of those one-page summaries, they all culminate in this, the problem definition sheet. It all boils down to a single agreed-upon sentence defining the exact problem you are going to solve. That single sentence, which aligns an entire organization, manages expectations, and defines what success looks like, is infinitely more valuable than thousands of lines of code written for the wrong objective. It literally becomes the compass for your entire project.
So, I want to leave you with this final unifying thought. The very next time someone rushes up to you with an urgent request, demanding a complex technical fix immediately, just take a breath. Ask yourself, are you just building a solution? Or are you defining the problem? Change your approach. Ask why. Lean into the silence. Define the true problem. Because at the end of the day, the most brilliant solution in the world is completely useless if it's applied to the wrong problem. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to try out the SPIN framework in your very next conversation.